Thank you very much, and welcome back to our conference. That's the final panel, labor market inclusion, including workplaces. And I think, if you look at quite a lot of integration strategies, the end goal is basically labor market inclusion. And if you look at the 10 Partnership for Refugees whole approach, that the financial independence is the most important that can bring the feeling of resilience back to the refugee communities, especially for people in forced displacement. I think that's very relevant. But at the same time, it doesn't stand alone. That's where we have to be very clear. It doesn't stand alone, and it has to be the full package. And the labor market inclusion has to come together with all the other activities and integration services that we already discussed today. And from the Council of Europe ICC to great examples and inspiring examples from Stockholm City and other municipalities. So what we will do today is we'll try to see, how we can go beyond the traditional way of talking and doing labor market inclusion by really, focusing on the private sector as not just employer, but also as a relevant social inclusion and integration actor. And what does it really take to really focus on the systematic change among the private entities and among employee associations, to be able to drive this process forward. Because in this world where we already got some of the information from the representative of UN Refugee Agency in Stockholm, is that the solidarity is needed as never before. So that's it from my side. We have really impressive panel here from Lithuanian Diversity Charter Association, which is mobilizing private sector for the D&I policies, and they will present a couple of very interesting initiatives that they have been doing together with us. And after that, I'm very happy that without us, it's continuing, so it's really great. Then we'll have Rugile, then we have Aicha with the very impressive startup refugees from Finland. You will hear a lot of good things, how the really systematic approach can be done at the level of the NGO, from coaching and matching to the entrepreneurship skills, which is, I think, great. And then you will see Emma from Lige Adgang, which is also focusing on the equal rights and equality at the workplace as well as in the recruitment process. So I think it's really great. And then you will hear from Ragnar a little bit of the story from the municipality that I will not be able again to pronounce, so I will leave it to Ragnar a bit later, even though I have been living in Sweden for 5 years. How it's called? Huh? She left you. She left you, oh my God. Yes. And I think this will also give us a little bit more of the understanding of how the municipality is working towards the labor market inclusion, because in the Swedish context, it's a bit different. It's employment agencies which are responsible for integration. So we will see how the municipality is framing the labor market inclusion in the better, or let's say in a wider context of inclusion package that is offered by the municipality. So without further ado, I would like to invite Rugile Trumpyte, who is a CEO of Lithuanian Diversity Charter Association, and who will present us really nice initiatives about refugees. So the floor is yours, over to you.
Thank you. I programmed myself for the conversation, so that's why I'll sit and talk to you. Karolis knows that in these days, and today I'm feeling like in this Pointer Sisters song, that I'm so excited and I just can't hide it. And this is because of the fellowship initiative that we're carrying. And it's been a great success, which I'm so happy about. And this is the reason why Karolis invited me. So I'm from Lithuanian Diversity Charter. We are an NGO. We work with diversity and inclusion. And one of the things that we do, we are monitoring what's happening in the country, what's happening in our society, and what it means. So as today's focus is migrants and refugees, we're seeing that in Lithuania, the number of newcomers is increasing every year. It's been like this even before the war in Ukraine, but when the war broke, even more so. With that comes the problem that other countries had, and now we have it as well, is the problem of de-skilling. We have a lot of talented, competent, skilled people, and they're not working according to the potential that they have. We have doctors, we have contemporary art curators, we have designers, programmers, program managers that are working as baristas in coffee shops. So for maybe a short period of time, that's okay. But when it comes systematic, that's already a problem. And we, in Lithuanian Diversity Charter, we were thinking, what can we do about it? How we can break this cycle of de-skilling, understanding that we're only a very small organization. So we thought about one intervention, and we call it Fellowship Program for Talented Refugees. We launched it last year together with UNHCR, and we continue this year. The logic behind is that we invite companies to provide 2-3 months of fellowship opportunities for refugees and other migrants. And in return, we train them on intersectionality, on diversity, on multiculturalism. And for them, it's a win-win because they want to have those skills because it's long-term, like, very valued. When it comes to refugees, they can update their CV, they expand their professional network, and feel more confident navigating the labor market. This is what we saw last year. But last year, companies that joined our initiative, they came with a very specific motivation. Usually they said that, you know, this is our values. We just can't say no to this kind of initiative. It's our corporate responsibility. We want to be part of it. But we have no plans of hiring. We thought, oh, well, maybe it's still okay. It would be the first time they have a refugee in their team, a new experience. Maybe they will change their mind next year. And this is what happened. This year, we got more companies that we could accommodate. And their number one motivation was that they're coming to search for possible employees. Because they saw last year that refugees are so talented, competent, skilled, that there could be their employees. This year, we even got the feedback that some of them were more qualified than their team members, so it was like quite an awkward situation as well. But they came because they wanted new employees and they wanted to expand their pool of candidates. It's the first month this year. Still, we're in the middle of the fellowship program. Already one person was hired. The company didn't wait for the program to end. We have another 2 that are going now through the recruitment process to be hired. We'll know on this Friday and then next week if they're really successful. But so far, it shows good signs. And for us, it's the message that usually we, have this Excel table where we put the numbers. We have this number of refugees, and then another line that says we have this number of talented foreigners who came here for work. When in fact, it's we have talented people in the country. We do not need to search outside it because Lithuanian government has this strategic goal that wants to attract talents. But we have talents in Lithuania, we just do not see them. So that's our discovery. And another thing that we're working, it's inclusive recruitment platform. It's called SCOBO, S-C-O-B-O. And SCOBO is different from other recruitment platforms because we match companies with diverse candidates. We started with migrants and refugees, knowing that language is a big barrier. And when, for instance, foreigners in general, when they're searching for jobs and they find a job ad written in English, it's so nice, they can read it. But you do not understand if you will need Lithuanian language every day if you apply, so it stops you. And there are so many other barriers. So with SCOBO, we just remove this barrier. You may filter companies according to the language level that employers are looking for. And also we understand that migrants is, there are no such thing as migrants. It's a very diverse, very different group of people. So we're having migrants who have disabilities, visible and invisible. And if you're moving in a wheelchair, I don't know how much contact you had with people with disabilities, but we hear it so often that if I'm moving in a wheelchair, I always have this question, will I fit through the doors? Like, if I have a job interview, can I come in? Or if we have a meeting, will I be able to come to the building? So in Skobo, you may filter companies that specify that you will be able to come in with a wheelchair. If you have ADHD, if you have autism, you may filter companies with very specific lighting, colors, and etc. environment in which either you would feel safe and confident or you won't. So we try to apply intersectionality in every way that we work. And we believe that only in this way we will be able to accommodate individual needs that refugees, migrants, and all other people have. So that's the opening, I don't know what, speech.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And I think before moving to Aicha from Startup Refugees, I think this is very good. It's not a question, it's just about a comment, because I'm really happy that you focused on the skilling process. Because, I can refer to the OECD report, which tells us that relatively the employment of Ukrainians is really high. And other research tells us very clearly that one of the logics of behind the relatively high level of employment is that the skilling is that because of the temporariness or temporary protection, not always Ukrainians are looking at the job or employment in the longer run. So they're taking any job that, would fulfill their, very, very urgent needs, and then they perhaps don't look in the longer run. So that's the one thing. Another thing, of course, it has to be done in combination with the language courses and with the whole package of those. So thanks for mentioning, but perhaps we can go back to that question during our Q&A session. So I will invite Aicha from Startup Refugees with the presentation. Yeah, perhaps you can go here just to see the PowerPoint. Right. Yeah, and I think that should work.
Everyone, good day. How are you? Good. I have slides, yes.
Yes, you have.
Good, I remember them. All right, hey everyone, my name is Aicha Manai. I'm the CEO of Startup Refugees. We are a social innovation that was founded 10 years ago in 2015. And I want to take you on a little journey back to 2015. Finland at the time received 30,000 asylum seekers from the Middle East, Iraq, Syria. Finland went into complete panic. I still remember reading the newspapers from those days, and they would have headlines like, are they really refugees? Oh yeah, are they really, I start moving, this is the problem when I have a mic like this. Anyway, headlines saying, are they really refugees? Why do they have gel in their hair? Why do they have nice clothes? Why do they have mobile phones? And this discussion was going on for weeks and weeks and weeks, until two media personalities called Riku and Tunna, who are basically two Finnish white guys who have a lot of power and a lot of prestige, decided to say something. So they were on TV doing a live show, and they showcased a documentary about ISIS. And after the documentary was done, they had this discussion where they were talking about what's going on, how everything started back in Tunisia, and etc. And then I think it was Riku who said, like, hey, why the hell are we talking about if these people have gel in their hair and mobile phones? Shouldn't we be talking about who these people are, what they know, what they're interested in, what they want to do, what benefit do they want to give to their new host communities? Maybe this is what we should be doing instead. And then on the live show, they said, hey, if you want to do something about it, send us a message at da-da-da.com. Next morning, they got like 500 messages. Okay, half of the messages were very racist and obnoxious, but the other half of the messages were from companies like Supercell, Tietoevry, major, gigantic Finnish companies who said, hey, we want to do something, like we want to be part of this initiative. And that's how Startup Refugees was founded. And like I said, two white guys with a lot of good contacts and a lot of prestige. But what I value about them the most is that they realized that Riku and Tunna are not going to be the ones to kick off Startup Refugees. Startup Refugees should be kicked off by refugees. And how everything started was through volunteers, because there was no money in the beginning. So we had Iraqi people who had come to Finland in the 90s, in the early 2000s, who gathered a community and they started visiting reception centers. They would have very poor computers and Excel sheets, and they would go to the reception center, sit down and say, hey, ahlan wa sahlan, can we have a discussion? What's your name? What's your background? What are you interested in? This was before GDPR, okay? So we had a lot of information in those Excel sheets. And then, in the information that was in those Excel sheets started being matched to what was happening in the network. So we had the companies, Supercell, Tieto, every smaller companies, bigger companies, and we started doing the matching. A few months after that, Supercell was like, you know, this is like actually a really good idea. We're gonna give you 400,000 euros, and you better make something with that money. And 10 years later, we're still standing. Thank you, two white guys. Thank you, Supercell. Thank you, everyone that took part. Now, what we focus on today is 3 different programs. Number 1 is employment possibilities. So we still map the skills of refugees and asylum seekers, but because Finland is not the most welcoming country to other migrants as well, we have actually also started working with migrants who have come, for example, from West Africa to Finland. They've graduated with a university degree. They're driving as a courier in the city, and they want to find something that actually matches their skills. So we also focus on them, but the primary target group is asylum seekers and refugees. So number 1 is the employment. Number 2 is skills development. This means that we have, for example, created upskilling programs in companies who have understood that they have a lot of immigrants working for them, but all of the immigrants are actually here, and all of the people, the Finns, are here. And there is definitely something that needs to be done to get the people who are disadvantaged to go up in the company. We have done one pilot that was very successful, and we're hoping to do more with other partner companies. But the skills development is, for example, mentoring programs, it can be field-specific coaching, etc. Number 3 is entrepreneurship services, so we provide coaching for future entrepreneurs. And this can be an entrepreneurship course, it can be one-on-one advice, it can be participating in an accelerator program. And what I want to emphasize is that we are currently 25 people, and only 6 of us were actually born in Finland. And this is 100% the key to the fact that we are still here, because it makes us, I would say, more trustworthy and more real, that we call ourselves startup refugees, and then if everyone would be born and raised in Finland, I really don't think our work would have the impact that it does. But yes, like I said, we had those Excel sheets in the beginning, and we had to let go of those Excel sheets. Then Reaktor, which is also a big IT company, they created for us a digital platform that we then started using to create these. It was basically like a CV making tool. Now time has gone by, obviously AI has entered the scene, digital skills have gone up, the need for digital skills and the need for better tools to map people's skills has come. So 1 year ago, thank you to Karolis and me attending an event in Geneva, I met with an organization called Jobs for Ukraine, and they were introducing their platform, and I'm like, wow, their platform is so much better and cooler than ours. So I went, I'm like, Roxana, can you tell me, like, how did you get this platform? It used AI, so basically it's a digital platform that does the skills mapping, and then inside the tool, it starts matching people with what they need. Now, they were only focusing on Ukrainians, and they were only focusing on getting people employed. Obviously, our target group is much larger, and we focus on other things than employment as well. But she gave me a contact to a company called Jobful, who we sat down and met with and created a new Match Made in Startup Refugees tool. The current tool or digital platform, it has over 10,000 profiles. So all the profiles that we collected back in the day and the new profiles. And how it works is that you enter, it has the intersectionality also taken into consideration. So for example, a job seeker can put in that I have vision impairment, or I use a wheelchair, or whatever it is, so that when we do the matching, we are able to tell the employer, hey, this consultant that you need, they actually have these special needs, are you willing to accommodate? And what I really like about our new match is that it takes into consideration the intersectionality, and it actually also allows the employers, future employers who want to work with our customers to anonymously look at the profiles, but we never give our customers information because we are working with a very obviously vulnerable group. So if the company is actually interested, then we enter the scene and we look through the work contracts and basically every step until the matching actually happens. Here you can see some of the fields of expertise that the people who have a profile on Match have. And we always very vocally say that, hey, these are the exact fields that Finnish companies are looking for. Like, wake up and stop bringing people from other countries to Finland and paying like tens of thousands of euros when we have the people, they are here. You guys are just not willing to open your eyes and see the potential right in front of you. And this is very draining work, but it needs to be done. And I'm very happy that Startup Refugees is not, of course, alone at this. There are other operators in Finland as well that do similar-ish work. A bit about our employment program. Up to date, we have, actually it's already 2,000, but anyway, 1,900 plus 2,000 jobs. I can say that they've been created by us. We didn't create the jobs, but we supported our customers to get these jobs. And I'm actually pretty sure that the actual number is much more, but these are the number of jobs that we have witnessed the signing of contract happen. So we know that this job actually came because of Startup Refugees and because of the really big network that we have. Then about our skills program. We've had over 14,000 participation times in all these different trainings that we offer. One very valuable training that especially employers appreciate is Working Life in Finland. And we can offer Working Life in Finland in 17 different languages. The most used languages are obviously Ukrainian, Arabic, Dari, Farsi, and Russian, but also in Tamil, in Lingala, in other languages. And Working Life in Finland training is basically, it's a 2-day sort of mini course where we go through what are the requirements, what are the responsibilities and rights of an employee in Finland, and then vice versa, what are the rights and responsibilities of an employer. And employers have been really thankful about this because when the new person starts in the company, they are already aware of things that usually many immigrants and refugees are not aware of. So we sort of do part of the onboarding for the employer. Here are a few examples of what we do, and most of these are due to the network. Like I said, we have so many different companies and individuals who are in our network who are willing to put in the work. For example, Reaktor has offered, I think, around 600 of our customers the possibility to do a Scrum Master certificate. This certificate costs a few thousand euros, and if you want to have a job in IT or project management, very often you are asked to have this certificate. And obviously without Reaktor we would not have the money to pay for this training, but Reaktor does it as part of their CSR. Then we also offer mentoring programs, and these, once again, we do them with companies. We have 3 mentoring programs going on now. One is for the NGO sector. We're working with Amnesty and Plan. One is for IT. We're working with Netlight and Tietoevry. And the third is for construction, where we're working with Sweco. 65% of those who go through our mentoring programs, it's usually 25 individuals who are accepted to the mentoring program, have found employment within 6 months of the program ending. And I want to reiterate that it's in their own field. So you are an engineer in IT, they found jobs as SaaS developers, backend developers, coders, etc. Then the business program, we've trained almost 1,300 future entrepreneurs, once again in many different languages, mostly in Arabic, Russian, and Ukrainian, also Dari and English. And 120 companies have been founded. Now, this is a small percentage, but we're very proud that it's a small percentage because this means that these are hopefully sustainable companies that are actually able to make it through the next year, not just a company that you start in 5 minutes and then it fails after 5 minutes. And we also established our own fund, which is the only fund in Finland that supports refugee entrepreneurs. And the way that it works is that each year we choose 3 entrepreneurs who have a very sort of potential innovative idea, and then we give money from the fund. Now, where do we get the money to the fund? It's from companies. So companies have donated, and now we found a very wonderful startup entrepreneur who shall remain nameless, who gave us 20,000 euros and put it into the fund. So we are able to actually distribute around 40,000 euros of funds. And this is not an investment from us. This is, we want to give it to these people. Of course, we follow through that they don't, go on a holiday, that they actually do something with it. But yes, that is from Startup Refugees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I would like to invite Emma from Lige Adgang, from the really interesting Danish organization. And yeah, Emma, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I have just one slide. You don't need to show it because it's mainly just a picture of me. You can see me.
Well, we can then sit here.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have a mic and yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
Yes. This is me, Emma. I'm here representing Lige Adgang or Equal Access. We also run Diversity Charter Denmark, and I'm very curious to have a conversation afterwards about how your Diversity Charter is run. This is also under the EU framework. Equal Access, we're an organization that has existed since '98. The idea originally was to solve the issue of labor shortage, build a bridge to all the newcomers coming either as refugees or migrants, and then cease to exist. But we're still here. The barriers have developed. The influx of refugees have gone up and down. But we see that there's still a need for us in building this bridge. Our focus is more largely on ethnic minorities, including refugees, migrants, and descendants. The way that we work is also through employment-oriented programs, where we have mentoring as a main part of this. And what we see currently in the labor market in Denmark is that it's quite hot. There is a labor shortage within many fields, where we also receive contacts from many people seeking these jobs, but who keep meeting barriers. And this is also with the focus of de-skilling for us. Many find employment within the service sector, but may have a background as engineers, work as couriers, but have a background as pharmacists. So what we see is that through the programs that we run, it's really having a focus on the underrepresentation in management roles and also in boardrooms, where we see that 0.15%, I believe, are of North African, Turkish, or Middle Eastern descent, which compares to 5% of the population at large. In boardrooms, it's also around 1.5%. So these are some of the barriers that we focus on in the programs that we run. So there is a potential, there's an opening, there's a need for more labor at the moment. And what we do is focus through our mentoring programs on industry-specific matches. So what we've done throughout the past 10 years is to match individuals who are seeking a job with someone who already has expertise within this field. And we see that this is also a way of not just sharing insights as to the norms in general on the labor market, but specifically within this field. This can include sharing network, giving advice on how to write your CV, but very much also which skills are necessary and which do you need to emphasize in the application process. The duration of our mentorships are usually 6 months. We have both voluntary mentors at large from civil society, where we have a network of over 2,000 active mentors at the moment. But we also run these programs in collaboration with companies that allow their employees to be voluntary mentors within work hours. And I think this is something that is really exciting that I would like to do much more of, because this is also where there's a potential for the systemic change, where it's not just the individual helping out another individual, sharing expertise, sharing experiences, but also bringing that back into the company that they're working in. Gaining a bigger awareness of biases, a bigger awareness of the barriers that pertain to individuals who come to Denmark, either as refugees or migrants. So what we do is also, as a part of the mentoring programs, to have webinars offered for the mentors, to have mentor courses offered that speak into this awareness of biases and how to take these experiences from the mentorship to become an ally in the workplace as well. Reconsider the processes that you have for recruitment. Reconsider the initiatives you have that can help promote well-being for everyone in the workplace. So this is something that we're also working more and more into, which is the training within diversity and inclusion, where we really focus on the recruitment process and the onboarding process, but also what comes after that. 2 years ago, we published a report on ethnic minority stress, which is something that has been covered in a Danish context, more largely minority stress. So being minoritized in any way within the workplace or another setting, where what we have gone into is how it feels to be minoritized due to your ethnicity and the health consequences it has for your health in the workplace as well. So this is really what we're also going out and promoting now. What initiatives can you take as a workplace to try to mitigate the barriers for minoritized candidates in all parts of the process? We have run a program, the student job program, for quite a few years, which is focused on entry-level positions. This is where we see a large potential in working with employers because there's a larger flexibility when you talk about what requirements are needed. This is where we really see the potential of challenging the recruiters in what is it that are minimum requirements, what is it that's must-have, and what is it that's more nice to have. So trying to challenge the narrative of we want to replace the one that just left us, and reproducing the idea that the profile has to look a very certain way and challenge some of the biases in this process. So we facilitate anonymous recruitment processes where we only share a very limited amount of qualifications and information on the individual. And then we also support the onboarding process where we really focus on transparency and sharing some of the norms that are not clear to someone who's new in a Danish workplace or new in an international workplace. What we're also hoping to is definitely to gain inspiration from organizations like Startup Refugees, who we're also so lucky to be collaborating with at the moment through an NCM project, and develop more and more these tools that can help create the direct job matches. What we see are a lot of challenges in this regard in the Danish context, where the affirmative actions that you can take within this field are quite limited due to the legal framework. So I'm also looking forward to discussing that more. And I think I would just say that I'm looking very much forward to the conversation and discussing how we can work with diversity and inclusion. And we keep getting smarter in the ways that we go about it in the Adgang. For us, it's definitely a very iterative process of gaining feedback and going back and implementing new things, and also figuring out how to work in more sustainable ways and challenging some of the narratives and motivations that also go into projects like these, where we see that, for example, mentoring is also often driven by a want to extend something to someone else and can reproduce a narrative of someone being helped and someone helping the other. So I'm also hoping that this is a conversation that we can continue.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So the last but not least, Ragnar, from almost me left you.
Try it?
Yeah.
She left.
She left you, not me left you. That's good. I will go from this stage, you would see.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a case study from the north of Sweden. So this is Skellefteå. Can you say it? Skellefteå?
Oh my God.
Yeah, Skellefteå. So this is my hometown. It's about 78,000 people in the north of Sweden. And yeah, we have the problem that people move to bigger cities. they want to study, and they want opportunities. So we have a hard time to keep people for our, we need teachers, we need doctors, we need a lot of things to keep society going. And together with many other mid-sized Swedish cities, we are working and trying to figure this out. This is Skellefteå. There's a lot, I don't even know if you see the city. So the city is down there. So this is our culture house. So it's Sara Culture House, highest building. So that's very nice. So this is Skellefteå, and so we had this kind of little bit struggling. We were not gaining population, we were losing population for some time. And then a few years ago, around 2017, this green industry revolution started with battery factories and this kind of projects. And then Northvolt, a mega factory, like one of the first mega factories in Europe, was, they decided to start it in Skellefteå. That decision came 2019. And now we have another problem, because now we have to figure out how do we scale up, because now we don't have the people to work in the factory, we don't have the housing, we don't have the schools. So now we have to start, like, how can we really quickly build up capacity? This is also Skellefteå. So 2019, the finance was ready, and the factory started to build, and it's pretty big. It's like 100 football fields of space. So we had to find that space, but you saw the woods, so there was a lot of space. So it was possible to find that space and try to build this gigantic factory in a very short period. It's actually a really, really big startup. So you have startup finance. You're not making, you don't have money coming in, so you need to be really quick to build capacity. And this has been building and building and building, and we have been trying to keep up with it. Last year, in the beginning of 2024, the first quarter, Skellefteå was the fastest growing city in Sweden, not per capita, like in actual numbers. We had 700 people moving in the first 3 months. And the factory employed, I should say, 4,000 people in the end of 2024. 4,000 people, which of approximately 65% is non-EU workers, so from outside the EU. Approximately 25% EU, and less than 10% like Swedish, like local people. So the working language has been English. So we have had like a really big factory with a working language which is English. So this was 1 year ago, pretty much. And then, we had this kind of really, so how can we build quick enough? How can we scale up quick enough? But then, in the autumn last year, we started to have problems. So first, under company to Northvolt filed for bankruptcy. So we had 1,000 people being laid off in the end of last year, and we're a small city, so that's quite substantial. And then, not so long ago, in March, the mother company filed for bankruptcy. So then we had another 2,000 people being laid off. So that's like 3,000 people in less than 6 months. So that's what we're dealing with right now. And I can't say that we have figured out how to, on that scale, it's very difficult, but we are trying, and we are trying to keep moral high, courage. So we're doing, for example, meet and match, because we have, before this crash, we had the lowest unemployment rate in Sweden. So there is a lot of opportunities, but one challenge we face is that those opportunities are in Swedish. And now, like most of the people getting laid off, have English as a working language. And also that it's a very quick turnaround, because you only have 3 months to find a new job for your permission to stay in the country. So that's also very kind of time sensitive. And then also we have this, that a lot of the jobs that we need people on are not paying enough for our minimum requirement for staying. So we need the people, but they can't stay on those jobs. So that's also a dialogue we're having with the government, like we need exceptions, because otherwise it's going to be really hard. Because the interesting thing is that, and the local government has been clear that we pretty much need all these people in the region, like not in Skellefteå maybe, but with Västerbotten and Norrbotten, which is the region. Like there's a big need of people, but we need to be able to bridge this gap so that these people who also have come here and committed, like bought houses and put their children in schools. So so how we're going to be able to bridge that period. And that's where we are right now. Thank you very much.
So, thanks a lot, Ragnar. We really wanted to have this, a case study which really shows how the city in 6 years can come from a huge economic development example to something which is very, very challenging in terms of social situation and economic situation. But I think we will go back to the measures that you have implemented recently, including the counseling and kind of the soft landing a little bit later. But perhaps now, before, I would like to give you the first question about the, you almost all mentioned, that, instead of looking what is out there in the country in terms of the talents, some of the companies, they kind of, looking into, bringing the labor force from outside the countries. But then, you see hundreds of thousands of migrants, members of ethnic community, Roma people, refugees, they are unemployed basically. And what they need, either the qualification or upskilling process or matching. So the question is to all of you, and perhaps we can start with Rugile, how to reach this systematic and structural change that really companies and networks of employers, entrepreneurs, they would really see this as an opportunity, because the resource, social, economical, cultural, is already there. So there is no sense and there is no logic to kind of ignore that this thing exists. And then public, we talk about that, we are suffering from demographical decline and the labor force shortage, but then suddenly there are people that I don't want to invest into the qualification. How to reach that level of the systematic change? So please go ahead. Yeah.
That's the question that we try to answer, and there is no one answer to this. But what we learned that with a fellowship program, so it's very focused on human work. Like we're a small NGO, we need to do the matching, we need to consult companies because they have a lot of fear. Then we need to, get access to refugees. We do this with the help of our partners, Lithuanian Red Cross and Caritas. But there is a lot of people involved in the process, and we understand that this could be only an intervention. It could grow, and I think it should, but it can't be the only way. So we were thinking about the automated computer-led matching process, something that we talked about today on this stage, and show companies that maybe you can just try for a short period of time. At least this is what we try now. Because with the first experience of having a refugee in the team, we see that the perceptions in the companies, they change. So usually they're not willing to hire because they didn't have this experience before. And we're trying to transform this and at least show them the opportunity that you may have the person, try it out, try a new recruitment strategy. And usually it works. So, I don't know, we're just trying to reach out for companies and consult them, train them on D&I. It's very in high demand now. And then persuade that maybe let's give a try short term, and then the person will stay.
I would say influence legislators and decision makers. So what we're trying to do in Finland, for example, is get the little seed of a thought into the heads of politicians that why shouldn't Finland work in a way that when employers actually want to hire immigrants and refugees living in Finland, there would be an incentive to do that. And when they want to go out and pay tens of thousands of euros to bring 100 nurses from the Philippines, they should get a sanction. Obviously, it's not this direct, but this is sort of the seed that we're trying to plant. Then the next part is just representation. So entrepreneurs and employers are usually quite competitive, which is why they get to where they are, maybe to some extent. So we need to tell them, like, you know, we're working with this company, and they actually found through us, for example, Ecovilla is the company that has hired the most. They are this, I don't actually know what they do. they do something that is in the walls that prevent sound or something like that. And we use Ecovilla quite often as an example. We're like, you know, Ecovilla actually found through us, they've already hired like 120 asylum seekers straight from the reception centers. Why don't you go to the reception centers instead of going to the Philippines? Yeah.
I think what we have found throughout also some of the collaborations we've done with different companies who have been very willing to try out programs where they adjust their requirements specifically for entry-level positions, is that even though there's a flexibility in that specific collaboration, there's a need for a focus on cultural add rather than cultural fit. And I think that is the reality of many Nordic countries where we prioritize social cohesion. We see the welfare state as something where we're equal because we're the same. I think we really need to challenge that narrative to create the cultural change that will allow for a bigger pool of talents to actually be taken into the recruitment process, have a good experience, actually get to the point of being hired, and then once they're hired, also thriving in the workplace. So I think changing the narrative from cultural fit to cultural add is where we see a big potential, which is a difficult journey.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about we had also a number of Ukrainians coming to Skellefteå during this very kind of hot labor market, so to speak. But still, even in that situation, we needed very kind of holistic and proactive bridge building or guidance to make it into that labor market, even though it was super, super hot. So I think that a lot of times we need to design systems for like all the needs, not just like, okay, we do this program, we do this program. We need to kind of take the holistic approach for the person and be able to be brave enough to stick with the support until we're there, and not like, okay, this is a short program and then you're on your own, but to be able to, we had, like after 2 years, 90% of the Ukrainians were working, but like then there wasn't like, I mean, some of them had support for 18 months or, you know, like a long time. But I think that having that idea that you have to design after the individual needs and not after like the institution or the organization's need.
Thanks a lot. Rugile.
I was thinking about the contradiction in Lithuania and maybe elsewhere, I'm not sure, but companies are willing to hire, in fact, migrants, if just to state such statement, but for low qualification jobs. It's not a problem for companies to hire migrants for constructions because we have like very huge demand, but they do not see migrants and refugees for higher positions jobs. So this is what we try to break. And I was also thinking about thinking about solutions, like looking at the funding programs that our ministries and other public sector institutions launched. So there is still very much focused, on trainings, on sessions, on events, and etc., but not into experiments, not into different pilots, not into practical solutions. And I very much lack sometimes different interventions just to try if it works. So I think funding opportunities, and then start talking about higher qualification jobs.
This is really great, and I'll just build on that, because I think that in the private sector, I would say it's easier, relatively easier to do the pilot phase, and then to try to put it as the institutional framework for the private entity, because that's totally different. Yeah, perhaps that's fast and more flexible. So do you have any idea on how we can do the pilots and how they would go? Let's say, I don't know, from you, because your organizations, they are acting as a complementarity to the something which is being done by the employment agencies. Yeah? So how you cooperate with employment agencies and other entities just to make sure that all this beautiful work that you have been doing so far, they will become at the end of the day the part of the institutional memory. Mm-hmm. I see that.
What was the question? Wait. So how for example, at Startup Refugees, what we do with municipalities, we work together with them. Actually, many municipalities have supported us in funding opportunities. So we have, for example, European social funding money, which always requires the 20 to 25% own funding, which we never have. So then we use the municipalities, we negotiate with them, and we, for example, already in the planning phase discuss what in this project would be something that would benefit you in the municipality that could stay as a tool for you to use in your upcoming services. And then we also usually have some sort of KPI. For example, working with the city of Helsinki, we have this diverse talents project. We have guaranteed them that 350 Helsinki-based immigrants and refugees will find employment in the 3 years. And then we have 4 other cities in it. So in that way, and how we get companies to do pilots with us, it requires a lot of calling and negotiating and charming and kissing a bit of their butts, and then you get them. And it has to be something with a very low threshold. For example, the mentoring program, we now have 3 of them, but it's not that easy. You can't just go to a company and be like, hey, you want to start a mentoring program. It requires planning, it requires finding the right mentors, matching that the mentee and the mentor are actually a good fit, not that just any random mentor and any random mentee. So what we do is we try to do a lot of the work for them. We train the mentors, we train the mentees, we organize the events. The only thing we ask from the company is provide us a list of people who would be interested to be a mentor and who commit to sort of the rules. And the rules are that, for example, in the IT program, the rule is that the mentor has to introduce at least 5 new professional contacts into their mentee. So not that they go and sip coffee and just chit-chat. There has to be actual concrete efforts that take place. And usually, they come aboard because they see that, okay, this will value us in our CSR reporting or ESG reporting or whichever, but they want us to do much of the work for them, and we're willing to do the work because we know that it benefits our target group.
Thanks a lot. Emma?
I'm thinking of a concrete example with one of our mentoring programs that we run in collaboration with a company in Jylland who currently have labor shortage, are out looking for skilled professionals, and I think also riding the wave with the more positive way of looking at Ukrainian refugees in all of our contexts and the potential there is for getting into labor or getting to work quicker has really been the way of making sure that there's a real motivation that goes beyond the more promotal, symbolic gesture of engaging in a program where you can promote yourself to show that you are assisting people in need, but also speaking into the current need for labor in that company, for skilled labor specifically. And selling the program is also a way of building that talent pool. So I think when we can have partners where it's also based on a more organic need, and that's where we see the real potential happening. And then making sure that the mentors that participate also see the mutual aspect of gaining new knowledge through the match made with a mentee standing outside of the labor market to gain new knowledge on what are the barriers to gaining a job in my workplace. What is it that's holding someone back from applying for this job? Why haven't we seen you through our standard procedures? So that we make sure that those experiences are also implemented afterwards. So they go into changing the recruitment procedures to actually allow this to happen more directly.
Mm-hmm. Ragnar, we've just been talking about the public and private partnerships, from the side of NGOs and private entities. But what about the perspective of the municipality? How do you see the whole concept of public-private partnerships, and how do you work in your municipality with the private sector, or with the private sector through the NGOs, or any other ways around?
Well, I would say from a more, I would say that basically I think that everything that takes a lot of stakeholders is very difficult because all those stakeholders have different kind of needs and positions and priorities. And I think that sometimes when we are trying to build these collaborations, we are too hasty. We want to get going. And then we might know some of the stakeholders' needs, but we might not respect, like, for example, the companies. If we want to keep them engaged 2 years or 3 years or 4 years from now, we have to take care of them as much as the target group. Because otherwise, when we call again, they don't pick up the phone. So I think that, from that aspect, I think that what we have learned is that sometimes slow is fast and fast is slow, and that we need to kind of respect all stakeholders' needs as much if it's going to be sustainable over time.
Thanks a lot. And we also mentioned in the initial presentations, affirmative actions or positive discrimination, if I may say so. So what is the opinion on this? Because we usually talk that affirmative actions, they should foster certain culture and ethos in the private or public sector, but then when we should stop with that, because if you want that this would become as part of the integral culture, not greenwashing, pinkwashing, as we say, it has to be done, perhaps without affirmative action or without a positive discrimination. So where is the balance, and what are the challenges from your experiences?
We always remind companies about this thing, because last year we saw, because we, together with our partners, we shortlist candidates for companies. And the majority of people who participated were people from Ukraine. And we also saw that companies were more willing to invite people from Ukraine. When looking into CVs, we understand that, okay, those are very competent people, but they're not more competent than people from Afghanistan or Eritrea. So this year we had a very, like intense conversations with companies, reminding about the unconscious bias and training them on this. And asking that if you're having different CVs, and there are people from our neighboring countries, and then there are people from the Middle East or Africa, let's say, always think why you're shortlisting this exact person. Isn't there any room for unconscious bias in your decision? So we had those conversations very intensively this year. And somehow this led to a more diverse group of people. So we had people from Afghanistan, from Eritrea, and from like very different regions. So this is something to have in mind. We always now remind, and we see that this leads to tangible results. Mm-hmm.
I share this exact same struggle. Since Ukrainians came to Finland, it's actually been interesting that companies call us and ask specifically for Ukrainians. And then we ask, why Ukrainians? Why? We are here to serve a very diverse group of people. We have talents from all across the world, and we will not participate in only showing you Ukrainian profiles. And I just have to mention, it's a complete myth that Ukrainians are like us, meaning who like who. This is what Finnish employers say. The reason that they want to hire Ukrainians is because we are so similar. And I don't know if anyone here has read Erin Meyer's culture map for example. Doesn't, yeah? I mean, of course, culture is diverse and there is no one culture in each country, but there are certain attributes that we can put and say that these are part of, for example, Finnish culture. Now, if you read the culture map, it actually has a tool that you can use and see different things. For example, how do you discuss, how do you negotiate, how do you fight, how do you look at time, etc. And you can sort of put different countries on this scale and see, for example, how does Finland contemplate with Ukraine, etc. And I did this test and I put Ukraine, Nigeria, Turkey, Morocco, and Finland. And guess which countries actually had a lot of similarities? First of all, Finland was different than anyone all the time. And actually, Nigeria and Ukraine had a lot of commonalities when it came to conflict resolution techniques, when it came to how they look at leadership, etc. So it's a complete myth that needs to be busted. But I totally forgot the actual question. Yes, affirmative action. Yes, we also talk that, hey, you should use positive discrimination. Us at Startup Refugees, when we hire people, which is not often because we are an NGO, but when we have project places open, we always very specifically state that we are looking for candidates who come from diverse backgrounds. And by diverse, we mean minorities, disabled people, etc. And we encourage them to apply, which means that the recruitment process has to be so that anyone can apply. And this means that you can send in your application in written format, or you can do a video, or you can send us a sample. We sort of allow you to do it the way that you want in order to also get more diverse candidates to apply.
I also mentioned this shortly with the affirmative actions before, and it's very difficult in a Danish setting where the anti-discrimination law prohibits any affirmative actions for anyone but disabled applicants or elderly applicants. And I think it would be a nice fix sometimes, because it would create a bigger focus on ethnic minorities also facing systemic barriers, and this would also be something that could push job consultants to also gain more training in navigating the specific barriers for this group of applicants, because they do gain training within the other regards. But this is also something that requires us to work more intersectionally, which I believe is also where the more sustainable solutions come out, when we don't just focus on one marker that creates barriers, but focus on the barriers at large. But I think this is a big task to have employers buy into this. And I think I'm just echoing the perspectives that you also mentioned.
I work at the Culture and Leisure Department in Skellefteå, and when we realized that we didn't have almost no one talking the big Arabic, Somali, I mean the big languages that we needed at that time. Dari and so on. So yeah, when we were in a recruitment, we actually saw it as like that's skills, that's talent that we're looking for. So not just that we should have more representation or something, that's also like we should probably have some people with these language skills. And that kind of flipped it a little bit for us, that you actually see the talent for what it is, that because we have problems trying to use translators and things, but we also lack those kind of skills in our organization. So we have been working actively the last few years trying to build a more, a stronger organization in that sense.
What I just came to think of also with just the word representation, there are also difficulties within the legal framework in Denmark measuring demographics among your employees, and I think this is also something that then requires to think more about inclusion and how to create a workplace that promotes well-being, and that this is what you should be measuring. So creating more criteria for what is it like to be an inclusive workplace for us, rather than focusing on what kind of representation can we gain. And I think that's where we're focusing right now, is how do we measure inclusivity in the workplace, and set up KPIs around this to have companies working towards committing to these type of goals?
Thanks a lot. And we are now moving to the last phase of our conference in the panel, which is the Q&A session with our audience. So I'm looking at the audience, and I'm sure that we should have questions. Suleiman, please go ahead. Can somebody pass the mic, please? We have it here. Yeah. Oh, good.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The question is that for the whole panel, refugees are not all equal. Some are more capable than others. Some are able to learn the language, and some are not able to learn the language for various reasons. Trust me, there's a ton of reasons why a person cannot learn the language. Maybe not so fast, at least. And the question is, how is your experience in finding a job for this group of refugees who speak only their own language, Arabic, Farsi, who don't speak English? Now, I understand you mentioned the example where the language is English, but those who don't speak English only speak their own local language. So this will be nice to hear an answer from the whole panel, please.
Thank you. Who will start?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, we have a lot of people in our network who don't speak English and don't speak Finnish, and usually these people are then supported to find employment in, I would say, blue-collar jobs. For example, a lot we've supported to work in laundromats, construction sites. You can do this work safety card in Arabic and Dari languages, for example. So we've had cooperation with companies where they've been looking for people to work at the construction site. And their demand has been that these people go through, I don't know if work safety card is like an international thing, but at least in Finland you need to have the work safety card. So what we've done is we've cooperated with agencies that provide the work safety card trainings, and we offer those in different languages, or a hygiene passport to work at a restaurant. So then even if you don't speak the language, then you can work for, not as a server, but you can work at the back of the restaurant doing some activities. These are just a few examples. Then we've had people who have gone to work in like factory settings where they're like in assembly lines, for example, or at a salad farm where they, pick up the salad and then they put them into those whatever things they go through, etc. We've also supported a lot of people to work in jobs like that, and what we've done there is that we've supported the employer to print manuals and pictures and also translate them into different languages so that the person can see how the job is done through visual. Of course, a lot of miscommunication happens, and it's not like the perfect way, but this has been just one solution that we've found. The problem with it is, though, that if the person is very highly skilled, then they're sort of stuck doing a job that's not exactly what they studied, but then it just requires time for them to learn either Finnish or English. I would say Finnish better to find a job in Finland, and then a few years from there, find a job in their own field. But it also puts an extra burden because they might be working in a laundromat while they need to upskill in order to, when they learn the language, they'll find a job in their field. So it's not a perfect solution that we have.
Yeah, and I think this is also very important because we call those jobs sometimes an entry jobs. So we have to make sure that those entry jobs will remain entry jobs. They will not stay jobs forever. And that is where we see sometimes that these jobs are becoming job forever, because if you don't have the language at the workplace, if you don't have additional inclusion of employers into the other integration activities, not just a regular or traditional way of providing employment opportunities, I think that's where we have a risk to stay within the context of entry jobs forever, which is not healthy neither for society nor for the refugee and migrant community. But perhaps you have more.
I agree, and I think where I also see a potential focusing on the entry-level positions is also bringing in people who might be overqualified for the specific position, but it's an opportunity to practice your language in a work setting, which is more motivating, you gain more technical language, and then specifically for the ones where there's a potential of within that same organization or same field, gaining experience maybe being in the call center in a big bank. If you have a background as within tech as a project manager, then afterwards you'll have a better network, you'll have bigger opportunities to explore other types of positions within that same company. And that's what we've done through one of our programs, where many are employed specifically in the call center, and this is an opportunity to practice language and then also gain network and insight into the norms and culture in that specific workplace.
We did a survey, like representative survey in Lithuania, and we asked employers offering jobs. So what we got, that 98% of companies that offer low-skilled jobs, so they do not require the language, and this is what you said. But if you want to go up the career ladder, then either English or Lithuanian is required.
Yeah, so our experience is that the employers, like when we had a super hot labor market, yeah, you can do that. Like we had people without English or Swedish who could get in because you need someone, and then the employer get more willing to kind of compromise. But when you have a more kind of normal or like a rough labor market, it gets much more, of course, tricky too. So it has a lot to do with like the macros. And so we realized that during a period, at least, it was possible, just because the demand was so high for people. So yeah, I think it could have to do with that as well.
Thanks a lot. Do we have any other questions? Yes, Laura, please. The mic is coming.
Thank you. Karolis, this is probably a question for you. How do we make this a national thing? Like what Rugile is doing is basically she's replacing probably the employment service. Maybe they should be doing this. I'm not sure. But even then, we have NGOs and they are covering a scope of people, but it's not the country, even probably not the whole region in the other's case. How do we do this a national thing? Like, what do I need to do?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we have a new moderator. I mean, I will give the floor to Rugile, because the one thing is that we have knowledge here. And I think this is really good, because by combining everything that you have been doing together, I think it can be a super perfect solution for the labor market inclusion. Now, what we've done with the scoreboard last year is we launched the refugee employment platform under the scoreboard. And we provided little funding, and I think the job was done really perfect. And I'm really happy about this. Unfortunately, we cannot go ahead this year. So I really hope that either employment agency, the state employment agency, or you, who has a double hat, doing integration policies and managing EU funds, can tap into this and really, help them to build something sustainable together with the employment agency and all the NGO actors, because I think it's the basis is there, the knowledge is there. What we need to do now is to scale this up. And by scaling this up, I think we can look at all these initiatives in Finland and Denmark and Sweden. Yeah, but I think I'll give the floor to Rugile, because I know Rugile has tried a few times with the employment agency, and it wasn't too successful. So,
but I won't tell this story now.
No,
but just two things. When we updated SCOBO, this inclusive recruitment platform, with the help of UNHCR, like we just finished the work. And in a week or so, there were 150 new CVs registered from migrant community in Lithuania. And we did nothing with publicity. We did nothing with marketing, like totally zero. And for us, it was a sign like, wow, this demand is like skyrocketing. When it comes to the state, so with the fellowship program, last year we did this with the UNHCR. This year, we're doing this with the Reception and Integration Agency because they had some money left last year. And they knew the program, they knew it was successful, and they said, okay, let's do it together, because we as a country, we want to be part of it. But they're not sure if they will have this money for next year. When we see, because we always track data, and we want to know, to have the evidence if it's still useful, should we continue? So before the fellowship, we asked fellows, like refugees, migrants, to evaluate how confident they feel in Lithuanian labor market out of 10. So it was 4 out of 10. In the mid-fellowship program, we asked this question again, and the result was 8 out of 10. So their self-confidence, like, doubled. It's a very, very good result for us, but we do not know if the reception agency will, will be willing to continue, but we very much hope that the state will step in.
And before giving the floor to hosts, I think that this is quite positive note for me, because this is the whole essence of having Foreningen here, that we can really cooperate in a more sustainable way. So I think when we will depart from the stage, I think we can take it from there and see how we can make this pilot as the part of the institutional framework with a good integration outcomes in all the senses. So thank you very much for your presentations, time, and really congratulations with the great initiatives.